I come out of journalism, magazine editing, novel writing, community building as the intranet editor at National Geographic. So in my world, I've interviewed many, many filmmakers, and at the very highest level, as you can imagine, Emmy winners and so on. And in my internet work, I realized that I had to gain this expertise myself. So I learned digital storytelling. It seemed like a good combination for the kinds of reporting things that I was doing. But then I have a great love of iEARN and a love of communicating visually. So this last year, as a volunteer at a middle school in Washington, D.C., I did a project in making a video. Thanks to Claudia. Claudia gets me in trouble.
Okay, so Salman, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, definitely. My name is Salman Hamad Al-Muhannadi. I am a student here in Qatar. And I'm part of the Film for Change youth activity, youth service club. We're under Rota. Basically, I've started my passion for films from DFI. Like from the beginning, DFI cared for me and showed me the ropes. And from that moment, I carried on, leaving their workshops into film sets and going around making films with other friends and other youth groups. And now that I've joined the Film for Change Youth Service Club, we make films to change the society. And one film at a time, we're making Doha a better place.
Thanks, Salman. Claudia, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a teacher in Brasília, Brazil. I teach English as a second language and foreign language for students in a public high school, mostly 5th graders to 12th graders. And on my personal history, I have done social communication studies on my graduate school, but I was never able really to follow this career. I like it very much, but because of families and raising family. But when I became a teacher and I met iEARN projects, when I became aware of iEARN projects, I thought that I could put this together. So that's when I started working with World Youth News and Adobe Youth Voices. So we bring these two projects together so our students can do some productions. That's how.
And Justin, tell us a little bit about your life and career.
So my name is Justin Kramer. I'm an American filmmaker. I was born in New Jersey, started filmmaking in New York. Came to Qatar in 2009 for the first time, and like these pictures that are pretty funny. I don't have a mustache yet. I came here and started teaching workshops with Ben at DFI, and now I've opened a production company here. We're doing all kinds of films locally, and one of our main focuses is trying to keep filmmaking in Qatar. Because a lot of times when we have ideas here, they end up going to Dubai or somewhere else to make a movie. So we want to make them here.
Great. So now the purpose of this talk, we want to have quite a lively debate about why film in education, what are the uses of film in education, the power of it, the limitations of film and education, and hopefully we'll talk about the future of film and education. So I want to start with Claudia. Claudia, could you tell us about your perspective on the power of filmmaking in education?
Well, on my perspective, it's very challenging because it's not a project that's easily to be done, but teachers are used to overcoming many problems, particularly in public schools. But the thing is, like, students really like it and are motivated for it, and diminishes the gap between what they see outside school and in classroom. So they are really comfortable with the media. So I think we're doing is like having teachers help facilitate their putting these ideas, these emotions, and sharing this through films and media making. That's mostly what we've been coming up with so far.
And you've been using a lot of online film education technology. Can you talk to us about how that's changed the use of film in education?
Yes, now we have just started editing films online using WeVideo, for example. That's in the cloud. You can share the pictures and share narration and do together, just like we do with many other softwares like Google Drive. We can edit each other texts. In this, we can edit each other movies and pictures and clips and audios. So it makes really fantastic. I think we are going to discuss about it today, what the production our students have done with Qatar, which involved Qatar, Brazil, and the United States, sharing this editing.
Sure. If I can now bring in Kathy, you've been working with Claudia on a collaboration in the States. Can you explain the power and the appeal of working with video with students in school?
Well, first of all, when I'm in a low-income school, but every student, for the first time this year, has a laptop. And you have to watch them carefully, or they are on YouTube looking at video rather than doing their lesson. So there's a huge natural draw. Claudia and I both have been friends for years, thanks to iEARN. And we both see a problem, which is you make these videos. Videos are a natural. Kids are completely drawn to them. But they do all this work, and then who sees the video? Who talks about the video? Well, you can show it in your classroom, which is, I think, what most teachers do. And occasionally you have a film festival. But how do you do international? How do you do real feedback? And I think this is the problem that for 25 years iEARN has struggled with. How do you set things up for real feedback? So we tried an experiment this year. I had volunteers from the soccer program. So I had 2 6th graders, 2 8th graders. I worked with another teacher. I'm a volunteer, I'm not a teacher there. And the idea was, Claudia, you'd say the idea because you're the one that shaped it.
Well, actually, this idea took 2 different paths. One was editing these videos online among 3 countries. And the other was getting inspirational films, getting some of the Adobe Youth Voice productions our students had done some 2-3 years before. And we used it as inspirational videos. So we selected 5 of these on different topics, and each other, different classes chose what to talk about. And by watching these videos, they got inspired. They chose soccer, as a matter of fact, because Brazil is hosting the World Soccer Cup in 2014, yes. So they chose soccer, and what we did is that they came up with a new video, and on this new production, we screened together using Adobe Connect. So all these tools have helped us implement this interaction, sharing, cooperative, all that you all know so well know, you're so trained about.
I think a lot of people in this audience I've talked to, and some of you I haven't talked to, but everyone, I think there's a huge amount of video being done. And it has great power for teaching, but some of the greatest power can come from if you do a sincere video where the students have thought about what they want to say, what their message is, how they can show it. They're doing higher level thinking. This is what we're all pushing for in all schools, higher level thinking. And then you can start a conversation in a video conference with strangers with more comfort. We had quite a dramatic thing because the students that Claudia recruited and the teacher, Ana Hosa, and her students, 2 of them are here. One of the students is deaf. Another girl was told, her parents were told that she would never be able to talk. She's now learning her 3rd language. So, powerful stories. And my 6th grade student, as we were preparing to do the video conference, turned to me and said, "We are the most important people in the world right now because we're here and because of what we're doing." That's the power, not just of video, but that's the power of doing something with your video to make a message more clear, more personal, and understandable, not just in your brain, but in all of your senses.
That's great. And Salman, can you share with us your experience of this kind of thing in Qatar? What's the power of filmmaking? Have you seen, you work for an organisation called Film for Change. Can you talk to us about your experiences of film and education?
Yes, definitely. As part of Film for Change, we do make films aimed for the public and for the society. And throughout the films, we see like a great following for us. People come to us and suggest topics that we should talk about that are that troubles them, and they always commend us like, "Oh yeah, this is a great idea and this is a great idea." But we push forward to have not just members of the community, but as well as students, because we are students. We're still in that level, and we see great interest in students watching our films, but we want them to be involved as well. We're pushing forward to have more student workshops and going to the schools and showing them the tools so they could create their own videos and share their own opinions, whether it's in health or education or even sports. Like everyone loves sports here. This is what we push for. And students, when we tell them, "Oh, you're gonna make your own film," they get startled. But I've seen some of them that were first startled. They would after they finished their first film, they're like, "I want to do this again." Even though I was really scared, I have learned so much about myself throughout this journey of making one film. So a person can know so much more about themselves from making a film, because you'll have to deal with other people and dealing with the environment.
I want to offer another perspective that maybe me and Justin can talk about, which is the work that we do at Doha Film Institute, that we've been doing over the last 4 years. Justin, how would you describe Doha Film Institute's perspective on film education and training?
Well, I think it's a sort of open door. That's the most important part about it, is that anyone from any age, any background can come and learn a new skill. And most of the time that's with industry professionals or even in some cases famous actors or famous filmmakers. And I think it's important to stress that you can give away education for free to anyone, but you have to be willing to be a part of it. So, in Qatar there hadn't been any filmmaking before. So I think it's great to see this growth of local filmmakers who have these really interesting stories to tell, but never knew how to sort of express themselves.
I think what we've tried to do, you can see this slightly complicated diagram, but at the bottom of this diagram we have our beginnings. Basically, Doha Film Institute is using film not just for expression, but we are also need to believe in the power to take students from the classroom into a potential career in the film industry. And I think that's the difference in what we do. So at the bottom here you have cinematography workshops, creative writing, editing workshops, and then as people become more advanced, we move them up to more intensive labs that might run for 6 months or, and then beyond the lab, beyond developing them in documentary, directing, producing, screenwriting, cinematography, people were then financed to make short films and even feature films. So we certainly believe in, here's one of our students, Noor, she started with us 3 years ago and has now made 4 or 5 short films. We believe our perspective is, okay, so you've learned in the classroom, you've used film, you have a basic understanding of film in the classroom. Where do you go next? And what we're saying is, people like Doha Film Institute and American Film Institute do similar things, British Film Institute. We're the connection between the classroom and the film industry. And that's basically been the focus of our work. I mean, I have here, I don't know if you came, we have one of our students, is 14. Put your hand up, Abdul Karim, if you're here. Yeah, there he is. Abdul Karim came to us and he said, I want to learn how to be a filmmaker. So he dedicated himself to our workshops. He came and did creative writing. He came and did cinematography, screenwriting, and about a month after he started learning with us, he made this lovely film here. It took him 8 hours to make the film. And so my argument is that, okay, we have film education, but then where do we go next? Which kind of brings me on to difficulties. I want to just explore the difficulties of, Kathy, maybe you can flag up. We're dealing with developing countries, the challenges of including everyone, the technology is expensive, the internet is unreliable.
Even in developed countries, it's very complicated. When I grew up, my best friend became a rocket scientist, and then he became the boss of about 600 or 700 rocket scientists. And when he was a kid, he jumped in the lake to go swimming, and he'd never swum before. But he said, well, I've read about it, and I've seen it done, so of course I can swim. And they kind of had to fish him out because he couldn't swim, and he couldn't do it. So when I was doing the soccer video project, I had that same reaction. Now, I'm pretty sophisticated with technology. I've interviewed the top documentary people. I've watched film, watched documentaries, shot some stuff, done some little simple editing myself, and I didn't have a clue about how to teach it. And when I think about a classroom teacher and the pressures they have to keep the curriculum going, they are timed incredibly. It's not just that they have to produce for the tests, they have to keep going. There are data marks all along the way. So where do you fit this in to your curriculum? Because he did that in 8 hours.
Yeah.
But classes are about 40 to 45 minutes. And
do we have anyone in the audience who's, we have some microphones traveling around, do we have anyone here, any teachers or students that can share their experience of the challenges of using film in an effective way in the classroom? Don't be shy. Maybe not. Okay, we'll have a think about it.
Okay, we have a razor.
We'll just bring a microphone. I'm interested to gather kind of ideas from the floor as well, so different opinions.
Yeah, thank you for giving the chance. So first, when you were saying we have film in education now, film in the classroom, first, actually these films, the ones that we've seen, or AYV films, are not done in classroom. They are done as extracurricular activities or outside classroom. That's one thing. So exactly what Kathy is saying is that, are these films linked to the curriculum that the students are studying in their classes? That's one thing. And second thing is film in education about teaching students how to use media literacy, using it like in AYV is for advocacy, for example. And is this what you mean by film and education?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe Claudia can talk about this.
Well, thank you for your question. That's why we. Yes, you're right. Let's say it's a globalization thing. See, we do get this global training on editing video, but we adapt to your local realities. So it might be different from country to country. We cannot compare like what is being done in Canada to what's being done in Brazil as far as editing and technology, knowing how to. But the important thing is to give voice to the students. So if they are in the local place, they can voice and they can speak up. That's the important thing. And I think, of course, that's the greatest challenge we have is to include it in the curriculum and be able to do these productions within a class frame, just like Kathy was saying. So it does take a lot of effort from teachers and students, but see, the teachers and students are motivated to do it when they get when they start doing it. So they do welcome putting more time on it too, because when they see the final product, they feel good about themselves. That's when I would like to discuss then when we talk about the future. Okay, so the challenge here now would be fitting the curriculum, but then I'd like to talk about my vision of the future. So perhaps next, when you talk challenge.
We're currently running a youth program, which is a series of workshops with school kids, and we've been investigating how to integrate them into the curriculum, just as you say. It's not easy because of the fixed curriculum and the limited hours of each lesson. So we've been trying to, we've used the art classes for animation, English classes for screenwriting. So I think at Community College Qatar, Salman, I just worked with Salman.
Yes.
He shot a film. That was kind of integrated as extra study, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely. It was part of the World Cinema class with Professor Victoria. DFI joined us for a workshop that we would we would get together after school hours and then basically run through, like every Thursday, we'd go through the aspects of filmmaking. So one day we'd have cinematography, the other day we'd have, sound engineering and basically getting sound on film. So like locals from Qatar, they would get together and learn more about this craft. And we came up with a product that is, with the hands of like locals that they could show off to their friends and then encourage them to make a film. And like even the film issue is like very like intense. It's not something that is like or make a film about how color is the sky. It's something that is from the minds of the locals and it tackles a local issue.
Does that help answer your question?
I just want to add something
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
because I think it's this thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear anything.
They do.
I think it's important to also note that film in the classroom doesn't always have to be technical training, and I know you mentioned that. And I don't think that it's like teaching someone how to use a camera is the most important thing. I think just using film as a tool for education is also very important because for me personally, I remember in high school and through university, the things that I still retain, the knowledge that I've retained mostly was from documentary films that were shown to us, reenactment films, things that I probably wouldn't have watched without it being in a classroom setting. But I mean, I'm completely fascinated with things like JFK because of films we watched in school and history. So I think you can introduce people to ideas and cultures and art from all over the world, places they would have never gone, and that you can only travel to through film. So I think that's important to sort of add to the conversation, not so much that we have to always be doing cinematography or writing, or these are all parts of the whole.
So film is a filter for looking at the world. Can you add to that, Kathy? Because I know there's a lot of kind of more academic elements to film about communication, problem solving, language skills.
I wonder if we're talking about two kinds of things. Serious filmmaking, which would be an outside activity, like Jamal was talking, that would be like being in the football club, on the football team, or the basketball team, or the chess club, where you take the filmmaking very seriously and you study it and you are making films, as compared to the 5th grade class in Australia that Bronwyn Joyce has, where she uses making film and posting the film on blogs, not films, videos, but it would be, you go out, what is an angle? And you go out around the school and the schoolyard and you shoot different angles so that you learn to analyze what are shapes, what are angles. And then the boy that did it scores higher on his math tests than he ever has. She has a number of beautiful things that she does to bring low-skill kids up with their writing skills, with their reading skills. I think these are two separate things, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think my suggestion...
Wait, we need the mic, Jamil. Jamal. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name.
So my suggestion to DFI is to include then teachers in your workshops about filmmaking, because...
We already are, absolutely. We have many teachers coming to our workshops. So that's, I mean, carry on, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, because as Kathy mentioned now, it's like two things. One is media literacy, or teaching students how to use a camera or how to make films in order to voice out their messages. That's one thing. The other thing is how to use films probably by teachers to teach parts of the curriculum, or by students, or even to, as a teaser to awaken or their scientific curiosity or stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can bring in iEARN and Adobe, a small kind of exploration of how iEARN is embracing this, using things like Adobe Youth Voices and the various technology. What's happening there?
Okay, I don't like to focus too much on the negative aspects, even though there are challenges we must overcome. But I rather, since we have a teacher's audience here, I really think what is important to start with is for teachers not to be afraid of this new challenge of editing, of this, because we do have, and we also rely that the students will know more, and actually they don't. But see, that's not the main part. So let's not focus on that. What I would like to focus more is on having the challenge of finding partners to really watch and interact on this output, this production. Perhaps I forgot to mention that I work in an English a language school within the private school system, where students come to our schools to learn English, French, Spanish. Some schools do have Japanese. So our focus is language teaching, and in fact I'm studying now in applied linguistics, language acquisition and intercultural competence. That's what I'm particularly interested in. So the movie is something that we can use for that, but then what we need to do is to find partners for a real audience. But the real audience that we want are other schools that can watch the videos and we can interact with them. We can learn language from it whatever language it is. Can be different language, could be regional things. I think we do need not to focus only on producing, just everybody said, but I think our next step is to go towards distributing this youth media, because we don't want it to be just in the one school, one classroom, and being watched only once or put onto some YouTube. So we would like to be like Well, I talked too much, so... It's more like what, is it okay? What more like Kathy and I tried doing now, and now also with Adobe does the screening, they're doing the screening online. And we did this screening, but from one school to another school, and even with, there were 4 schools linked together that we could react to each other film and production, and by chat, and also video, and also sign language. I really would like to focus on that too, because it's very inclusive, because our partners, when we were doing the movie under the auspices of Qatar Foundation International and WeVideo, our partners in Qatar, I mean our student partners and the teacher here from the school here, they didn't know we were working on our end with a sign language. We had a deaf teacher in our group, or a student with a cognitive problem. But this wasn't a problem for them working hard and achieving the final production and doing the role, playing the role either as narrator or photographer, editor. So that's what I mean.
I'm fascinated by this global network that you have. 140 countries, am I correct, involved in iEARN. Maybe I can open this again to the floor. What are the ways that you can improve this network and really use film in the future to benefit your students, but also to just take it to the next step? And while we're waiting for someone to... we have someone here.
Good morning. My name is Gwendolyn Willis-Dapo, and I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm a former teacher, but right now I'm a researcher, and I have an educational consulting company, and I was talking to Claudia on the bus a couple of days ago. I also taught at the university, and I taught script writing and other communications courses. I have a couple of comments. First of all, if we're talking about teachers using communications technology, we should be talking about all technology, which means filmmaking and video and editing and all of those things, and not just computers and mobile technology. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think that this can be infused into the curriculum, and it shouldn't be an add-on. I think we can do it in several different ways. Just like at the university level, when we were talking about writing, we infused writing across all curriculum aspects through every single subject area. And I think that we can do the same with video and film. The other thing is that we need to redesign the curriculum to catch up with the 21st century. So we need to revamp it. We need to look at our teacher education preparatory programs in higher education and equip our teachers to catch up to the 21st century and prepare our students to be global educators. I also think that we can do this by using film and video as advanced placement courses and electives. And that way nobody can complain about we don't have enough time in the curriculum to do these kinds of courses. But with regard to distribution, I think that one avenue might be to develop a website, a web-based, what I call toolkit, that can house all of the resources that are created by students all around the globe. And this toolkit is web-based, it's categorized. So you could have a category of video, a category of film, a category of other resources, print and non-print, that people around the globe can access that are made by students, made by teachers, and everybody has access to this. So that if I am, someplace on God's green earth, I can access it. If I need a youth video on advocacy, I can go to this web source, I can click on the tab, and I can find the video that best suits what I'm looking for. That way, we've got global distribution. Whatever our children are making, everybody has access to it, and it's not in some vacuum where only one classroom sees it. And that way, everything that our students are doing has an audience, a global audience. But I really think that it's important that what our children are doing, what our teachers are attempting to do with regard to video technology, filmmaking, everybody needs to have access to because it's important work. We also need to have partners with money. I was sitting up here thinking, and I hope I'm not being too long-winded, but I was thinking about, you know, like CNN. Every time you turn around, we see CNN talking about everything, but we never see CNN devoted to just youth issues. What about that? Why hasn't somebody talked to CNN about devoting a whole, you know, a whole channel just to CNN youth? We have a website in the USA called findyouth.info.gov. It's devoted completely to issues around youth, whether it's bullying, whether it's alcohol use, no matter what it is, it's devoted solely to youth. Why couldn't we have something like that? We have TED Talks that are devoted to issues that affect everybody. Why can't we have TED Youth? So I'm just thinking about partners, about who we could recruit to
Yeah, and perhaps we can really include the
I'm finished.
platforms.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different answers. I don't really know where to begin. I'm happy we worked upon it.
I see Bob Hoffman has his hand up in the air.
Yeah, if he would join us.
We get a microphone down there.
Yeah, I have a teaching voice with the microphone would help. Thank you. Thank you for discussing this. I would really like to stress upon not making an extracurricular subject, but just use it as a rich context in which you allow students to learn. And secondly, the idea about CNN not creating a CNN channel for students, but by students. There's an initiative in the Netherlands connected to UNESCO about a project on children's rights, and they have a global initiative to start a youth channel focusing on students' rights by UNESCO on a project called LOT, which means fate, where students discuss their fate, and actually filmmaking gives them a voice all over the world. So not a channel about students, but a channel where students run it themselves. The tools are there, the technology is there, just give them space. Thank you.
Actually,
Good, then we agree on that.
Some great minds in the audience here. I want to throw a kind of a thing into the discussion and bring Justin in, because I come from a 10 years in the film industry, and then I came to Doha to help build the Doha Film Institute with Justin and a lot of other great colleagues from around the world. And I want to throw the challenge out to the teachers as well, and I don't know how this can happen. I have a few ideas. I've seen some of the films that have been made around the world, and they're truly inspiring, but what I feel is missing as well, I don't know if you have any opinions here, is I think that the film industry needs to get more closely involved with the education sector, because the teachers, a good filmmaker is not necessarily a great educator, but you put a good filmmaker with an educator, and you're going to raise the standards of film considerably.
yeah.
I showed earlier our student Abdul Green, who's 14, and he worked with a number of professional filmmakers at the Film Institute, and I think the standard of his films was very high. What do you think about this, Kathy, about raising standards in the future? We want better platforms, more publicity, more exposure for films. And Justin, maybe you can come in on this as well.
I mean, I kind of think in theory, and I'm sort of going to advocate for this, is that, you know, Channel 4 by students sounds amazing. But the question really is, what do students want? And I think it's something that gets overlooked a lot in classrooms. What do the students actually want? What interests them? What platforms do they want to see their content on? I know probably at least 3 people in here right at this very moment are either on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. Guaranteed. Just be honest. I mean, like, it's very well taking a picture of yourself. So, I mean, CNN, I know it's just sort of an example, but I've never met a kid who says he enjoys watching CNN. I've never met a kid who says he wants to just independently go on the site. It's sort of these things that they get integrated into the curriculum, making it almost a mandatory thing for students to go to these platforms, whereas it needs to be a more open and inviting atmosphere for them to be in. Even my attention span is very low now, and we know that when you're watching a video, you're 2 seconds away from perspective of sunrise. If you're watching a 5-minute video, 2 minutes in, you're like, oh, there's a cat playing a piano. I can watch that in 30 seconds. Why not? So it's different. I see both sides of this thing, and I would really, I would like to hear from students about it, like what you actually want.
We've got any students?
Because my real job is working for the American Institutes for Research, and we work with education and 14 other agencies that run findyouth.info.gov, and we have youth on that interagency working group, and youth do go to findyouth.info.gov. They had significant input for that website, and that is a very rich resource for them. So we do have the analytics behind that, and they do use it. And then secondly, with regard to student-run programming, we have a lot of schools in the Washington, D.C. area that have student channels that are student-driven content and broadcasters, and they love it. And more schools are trying to implement their broadcast curricula because it is so popular, and it has really helped student-school connectedness. So I think that while it might not be good for all students, there are a large majority of students who were not connected to school are now connected to school because of it.
Yeah,
That's a great thing. And I'm interested in learning about these things too. But I want to say too that I went to American schools, and I am American, and one of the most patriotic people I know. But I don't think that globally it's the same.
yeah.
I think that in America there is amazing government-run, education-based. There are these programs and there are these websites, but I don't think it is an international.
That's my point here. I would like to get back. Is that okay? I'd like to get back to the fact that we are on the iEARN seminar and having this great iEARN network here, because that's the people that can come together on these platforms and doing this. But we do have to find partners to watch. We have to distribute each other. We have to know each other from this for learning from each other. And so when I see they're building bridges, I feel like this, building bridges here so we can communicate better, we can interact more. But that's the idea we have, having this platform, more professionals also have some tool like this, whether we use the tools already existing also. But the thing is connecting these people to watch each other. When Dr. said this, mentioned this, there is PBS, for example, but within iEARN there is World Youth News that has been, when I first started with iEARN in 2008, my students did 5 documentaries. One was the students' view of the teachers' strike. The other one, the littering on a Brazilian anniversary, that we had 160 tons of litter on the grounds. They did about this. But see, if it's not good enough, the editing, like just here, Ben was saying, then the great companies won't showcase it. Okay, these videos they were shown within W Youth News website, and PBS interviewed one of our students, but then if it's not so beautifully made, the outcome is not so great technically, they won't. But if we do as educators, get more training or get the help or partnerships, what we can do is to help the students find their ways of doing it. And most important of all, I think, is like for, as he mentioned, the difference between countries. It might be very nice for, I've attended an American high school in Illinois, Lincoln, Illinois. There was this small town of 17,000 but people, the population, but had this big, great high school with all the equipment. Is that so in India? Is that so in many other countries? Is that so in my own country, in Brazil? No. So we do have to find means to do this. Oh, that starts. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. And the data bank, my major idea, I think, here is the data bank is to have this data bank somehow. That's what I mean by distributing and marketing.
Yeah. Maybe we can hand this out also to the crowd, and also Kathy, I'd quite like to, as we're wrapping up, you know, seeing as we're talking about iEARN's network, let's look to the future, ways that you personally would like to improve iEARN's strategy towards film in education. That's a big question.
No, I've done quite a lot of thinking about it, and I think you have to have some structure to guarantee feedback. And I think there must be some ways within some of the very structured projects where you have a start time and you have an end time and you make a commitment to one another, and then you have your audience for the film. There's something that Bob Hoffman's working on where with Peer Scholar you can have 3 students from all sorts of places react to one student's video or their writing or their whatever, and then the student can make some adjustments, then reflect on what adjustments they made. Did I describe it well, Bob, with the Peer Scholar? But it seems to me that if you build in the interaction as part of the project, because what I found was I became pretty obsessed with the videos. And then at the last minute, then we did the video conference, but there wasn't much interaction. It was just the video conference, which is some interaction, but not very much. So how do you build in more interaction so it's the interaction is a big part of the project?
Salman, can you add to that? It's a big question.
Yes, it is. I do believe in like communicating with like students, especially globally. But like before we go globally, we have to start locally. As a student here in Qatar, I would, especially here, I was looking forward to see more locals here, since it's a really great initiative and it would, you know, benefit greatly here. We have like great institutes that are thriving for film, but like if we can see more locals here, it would be better. But like especially here in iEARN, if we get more like I would really wish to be more like connection and a network of students here between the schools, not just the English ones. Because here we have also Arabic. So if we can get involved with more Arabic schools and then make the local students global and make him like share his views and opinions and his films and the videos that he makes with international students. With like, we have great tools like you mentioned, the Wii video. He won't be editing alone. He would be editing with another student his age in Brazil or in any country, you know. So I believe starting, you know, locally is the first step.
And I think that's great. I've been very inspired by iEARN. I didn't know much about the organisation that month ago, and really, you know, you guys are leading the way in new honour to meet these people from that work with iEARN over the years. Is there any questions from the floor before we wrap up? Anything that we've missed? Anything that really needs to be said about film and education? The gentleman here. Can we pass the microphone down the front here? The microphone's up here. Here we go. It's coming.
Thank you. I read here, reaching out, building bridges. I'm a school teacher, and yet I've never heard about any organization making moves or whatever to introduce or reach out for our schools or any other schools. So it seems for me a bit vague.
Which country are you from?
I'm a local.
You're in Qatar?
Yes.
You've not heard of the Doha Film Institute?
No, I know Doha Film Institute, but my question is, what did you do to reach schools, to introduce whatever you produce, whatever you... What is your initiative to help teachers or ICT in class and so on?
Well, it's early days, and there's a lot of exciting things coming. We're currently in a pilot scheme with local schools to do filmmaking workshops. And we also have the Agile Youth Festival coming up in November. So your concerns are definitely going to be addressed this year and next year. That Film Institute's a young organisation.
So it's too early to ask for...
No, because the programs are being developed. We do have a DFI education committee, and I'll certainly meet with you afterwards and take your name and invite you to the next committee. At the moment it's small. We have a small group. We're working with Qatar Academy, Qatar University, Community College Qatar, Northwestern, and a handful of local schools in consultation. But locally we have a lot of work to do with the Supreme Education Council, because as we talked before, it's not always easy to integrate film into the existing curriculum. And we don't often see in the early stages of finding solutions of how to collaborate with the Supreme Education Council.
Yes. Some schools have media as a subject in their curriculum. Now, through media, you can introduce movies and so on. In our school, we don't have media. Maybe, I wish that we do, but unless we have, like you said, the Supreme Council and so on, with your initiative, can enforce that subject. Or whatever you can do, because it's very important. I believe it's very important, that's why I'm here. But still, I never heard about any initiative, about any bridge, about reaching out from any entity. Maybe it's too early, but thank you I got your answer. Thank you.
Is that public school or?
I think just one point that's happening. It's definitely late that we should connect with iEARN because they have global solutions. Justin has
Also, because I don't work at DFI anymore, and I left the education sector back in the film industry. I think it's important to note that in Qatar specifically, film is still viewed as not a career by a lot of families and children. They don't see it as a viable money-making industry. They think of it as playtime. And that is, that mindset is starting to change a little bit. So I think in time, I don't think you can introduce film into the curriculum of certain schools yet until the mindset of society as a whole is actually, my son doesn't have to be an engineer or a doctor. There are other options. I just say that he sound ignorant about it, but those are the sort of two leading occupations for young adults and in the oil industry. So I think that, once film starts to become, and that's what now my company, Film House, is doing, a lot of my ex-students I employ, because I want to empower young filmmakers here to kind of change that mindset that film can't make money. Well, actually, some of my students are making better money than students who study 4 years in engineering. So it's a society thing as well as an education.
And that's part of my earlier argument about bringing film industry closer to film education classrooms and bridging that gap. There was another question at the back there?
It was just a comment on what the gentleman in white was just saying, and also what you were just saying, Justin, is I am a graduate of schools in Doha. I only graduated about 8, 9 years ago, so telling my age here, but I'm only young, but 8, 9 years ago, the concept of going to uni and doing a media course was unheard of. When I first told my parents I wanted to be a media student, I wanted to do journalism, they looked at me like I was the black sheep of the family. It's strange, But now it's completely different. Now I'm seeing it in schools. My own high school is now introducing these programs into it, whereas 10 years ago it was, here's your math class, here's your science class, and that's what it is. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take 5, 10, 15, even 20 years. And the people on the panel right now may not be the people who see that change happen, but they're supporting it. And I think it's just it's baby steps. So thanks.
I think also just with the advances, very good points. With the advances of technology, half of the students in here have an iPhone. Justin was showing me a couple of months ago a movie that was shot on iPhone. So the technology is coming up to a point where students no longer will their films look like home videos. We're actually going to arrive at a convergence point where anyone can make a movie with the existing technology and compete at global scale. So just we run out of time. Does anyone have any final comments before someone else?
Hello? Yes. It's sort of a suggestion linking to the gentleman's intervention and Justin's point on finding out what students want. So I would suggest, for example, reaching out to schools and suggesting projects like having students write their own screenplay and then helping them to produce it. So it makes a lot more impact when they see their own work being displayed, and that way you engage them, you address what they are interested in, at the same time you promote education through filmmaking. Thank you very much.
I started screenwriting with Qul Qissa. I learned how to organize the story, the script. Then I moved to a CAS, the cinematography workshop, how to tell a story by lighting, angles of camera. Then I moved to Tahaddi, it's a filmmaking workshop. I made my first film. It's called Bench of Papers.
So, what do you think students of your age really want? We don't have much time left, so in a nutshell, what do you want in the future, students of your age, to enter film as a career and to understand
it? The student here really want to make films.
Yes, not so much a question, but more a comment on the fact that there's a link between, from your perspective, creating film and the network of iEARN. What we should not forget is to look at the power of having filmmaking as a context in learning, but also the fact that by making people visible, they exist. And in so many projects, it's just the fact that someone else sees you, that you're in connection, means so far more than we ever can imagine. So let's have a look and keep this in balance, both for the creative power, but also giving youth that do not have a voice and a vision by now the opportunity to feel them be a part of a larger whole.
Absolutely. And Kathy, maybe you can offer us the final word on your perspective. I think it's very powerful what Bob said there.
I think it's easy to think of them and they, and those Egyptians in the square, those illegals in the United States. When you think of them, it's a faceless mass. When you think of Gloria, who thought she would die coming into the United States illegally. And her grandmother said, "You have to go." Gloria didn't even know her mother. Her mother had left her when she was young with her mother to go and try and make money in the United States. And then the mother said, "You must come stay with me, I'm your mother." When you see Gloria, she's not them. And I think text is one thing, voice is another thing, but when the voice and the person is talking to you, that breaks away the them, those, you people. I think when we looked at the TV last night at the hotel with what was going on in Egypt, and looked over and watched one of the Egyptian youth that was at the summit watching, it's not them, it's him and his family and her. And I think this is the power of the combination of iEARN and the network and video.
That's great. Okay. So there's a lot of topics there, from technical to philosophical to political to economic. You could probably try and write a book on it. I know Claudia wanted to try something. I don't know if you have...
Can I add something before?
Final words, yeah.
Yeah. Since we're here in iEARN Qatar, I want to speak about how first video and then film is these are really new concepts here. When I first started getting into film, I was around 18 maybe or 17. People would be telling me, why are you doing this? You think you're going to be in the Oscars or you're going to be Spielberg or something? I'm telling them, no, I'm just doing it for the fun of it. I actually enjoy working under the sun in the noon making films. It's not something that I'm forced to. I actually enjoy this, and I don't want to. It's not about me getting paid or anything. I do this for the fun of it. But when we say new, we think that it's only 10 years ago. But I have heard of individuals who have tried to make film here and to produce works of art through film in the 70s, where it was really for the government and for whoever was in the public back then, it was very new and strange to actually have some sort of film camera and going around and shooting film, and they were shut down. So now it's coming back again with support from the government. So we see how it was tabooed before, and now it's being encouraged. But now we see the culture and the locals being so weird about it and going against it. If more of these institutes who would go into classrooms, everyone proposed, it would make a drastic change in getting the student himself to be encouraged in film, and he would go and tell his family, "Look, I made a film," and he would show it to his family, and they would be so proud of it. And it's like a butterfly effect or whatever it's called. And you could have a school that will have its own film festival, and then another school would have another film festival, and you'd have this great works of art being produced by students here in Qatar, where art is something not I don't want to say looked down upon, but it's not really popular. Everyone, if I know people who are actually artists but would not work as an artist, or they would have a second job, because here it's not appreciated, and it wouldn't get him. He wouldn't be. He wouldn't be able to live if he was just an artist. So, it's in the culture here in Qatar. I'm just speaking, and if with companies from around the world globally would make the local citizen here global and share his work, get more attention, and just making the local citizen proud of his work. We want to promote art. First of all, film is art. It's an artistic video, you know.
Okay. And Claudia, your final
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah. I really don't like this thing of final words, Ben. I'm sorry. I'd like to get a real new start. Okay, a real new start, and that would be. I had thought about an activity with the students, but we don't have many students. I don't think we can see them anymore. But what I'd like to do is like to have this flat ball. And I would ask the students to come, but we don't have more time, but just like play the metaphor here. So you have this flat tire, they are the colors of my country, Brazil, the green and yellow. The green, the forest, the yellow, the beauty of the iron beauty of our people, the gold, which is in Brazil, is like this diversity, bringing together so many people. And on this last film that we did, and the teacher is right here in front, and there was one line that caught my attention: is all that it takes is a ball. Is one line in that movie, and all that it takes is a ball. So I'd like for you teachers that are here today, and to feel this ball, to pump this ball, so it becomes as nice and beautiful and as strong as this one, so we can really kick it. And for perhaps having all the players here, we have the teachers, we have the students, we have the platforms, we have the tools, and we have the filmmaker industries. So let's all come together, and perhaps something new, good will happen in Brazil related to soccer. In sports, 2014 is the soccer World Cup, and 2016 the Olympic Games. Perhaps there will be a very nice event related to iEARN in Brazil in 2014. So I invite you to really feel and pump this with your student ideas, so we can get a kick new start for this filmmaking, distributing, editing all together. Come as a one.
Thank you.
Thank you to my panel, to Catherine, Salman, Claudia and Justin. There's so many ideas and not enough time, but hopefully we can spark a few debates and to be continued, I think. Thanks a lot for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you going to stay for lunch with us?
Perhaps I might.